This Impact Wrestling review was brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Try it and win part ownership of TNA Wrestling. I mean, it really does seem to be that simple, doesn't it? Over the last few years, TNA have done an awful lot of talking. They've said things, they've promised things to their audience, and due to one reason or another, a lot of the times these things either don't really happen, like when they say they're going to refocus on the X Division, which is a line we all know not to believe at this point, or they're done in sort of a half-assed, ill-conceived, or ineffective way, which TNA then use as an excuse for why they ultimately don't work very well and then go back to what they were doing or the people they were pushing before. So when they said they were putting their energy and their effort toward developing their future and creating new stars, there was going to be a lot of skepticism on the fans' part, and with good reason. But this week, TNA gave us a pretty good reason to believe them this time, and I'll get to that, but I want to cover everything else first. I really like this opening segment a lot. More so than many of the others we've seen recently. I mean, yeah, Dixie Carter was out there, but she didn't do anything this time. This time it was all about the talent. Magnus, MVP, EC3, Gunner, the Wolves, all relatively fresh faces and new characters. And as much as Dixie might enjoy playing the evil authority figure, as much heat as she might be generating, if you want these guys to get over like stars, you have to give them that spotlight and trust them to carry segments like this. That's what they did here, and it came off very well. I thought MVP was especially good. The Wolves are being presented as very dangerous guys. I like that Magnus is not afraid to stand up to Dixie like he did before they went out, just telling her to let him handle everything. That's good. That's him showing some backbone. Of course, then they ruined it by having him run from the Wolves like a little girl, but you gotta start somewhere, I guess. One of my favorite things about this product right now is the resurgence of Samoa Joe. It does make me kind of angry that it took Sting and AJ Styles leaving the company and Jeff Hardy being off TV for a while for TNA to finally push Joe back to the main event level again. But Joe hasn't looked this motivated in a long time, and it's been fun to watch. And this was so hilarious. The writers feed the bromance to him, and Joe beats all three of them at once. Just last week, him and the Wolves had a semi-competitive match with these jokers, and this week, Joe beats them all by himself in a 3-on-1 handicap match.
I'm laughing at you.
The booking for Samoa Joe hasn't been this good in so long. They're building him back up into the badass killer he used to be before they dropped the ball on his character, and that's great. That's been a long time coming. One thing I would like to see, though, is a good talking segment. They're reestablishing him as a threat in the ring, but getting him over as a character in this feud with Magnus before Lockdown, that hasn't happened yet. They haven't had any real interaction yet. Give them a contract signing or something. There's enough history between these guys that they could make something like that really compelling. And if you do decide to do that, for crying out loud, don't cut Joe's entrance like you did here. And as for the hashtag placeholder champions of the tag team division, the Bromance, this has to be the most worthless, meaningless tag title reign we've seen in this company in years. They've had those belts since October, and in the several months since then, they have not had a single feud, a single storyline, or a single reason to buy into them in any way, shape, or form. Not one. Not a single one. They're utilitarian. All they do is fill random spots, work random matches, most of which they lose.
You guys suck.
Compare the booking of the Bromance to the booking of the Wolves. The Wolves are in a prominent spot. They were introduced like they're a big deal. They're getting booked strongly. Everyone's talking them up as the best tag team in the world, which Robbie and Jesse have made no effort to refute, by the way. And the Bromance can't even beat a guy they outnumbered 3-1. And these are our tag team champions? Wow.
This is how the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
Strangely enough, even Bad Influence, who also lose most of their matches, look stronger than the Bromance. Look what happened here. Kaz and Daniels had a competitive match with the best tag team in the world. Sure, they lost, but they looked a hell of a lot better than the clowns who got their asses kicked by Samoa Joe 3 at a time. And can we please have more matches with the Wolves and Bad Influence, TNA? That was really good stuff while it lasted, and I feel like it was just scratching the surface of what these teams can do together. Give them another 10 minutes and some kind of storyline to work with, and these guys could really blow the roof off. Yes! Gail Kim and Madison Rayne had another match. It was a street fight for some reason. I don't know why. How did Lady Tapa not see Madison charging up to Gail on the ramp? She was looking right at her, but she just kept on doing her entrance like nothing was wrong. Did Tapa go blind somehow? They were working hard here, I guess. The match wasn't bad, but it was short. The title wasn't even on the line. The crowd didn't care about it, and frankly, I didn't either. Tell me why I should care about Gail versus Madison. Tell me. It's a 3-time champion who's been on TV for years and done everything versus a 5-time champion who's been on TV for years and done everything. And no matter what happens in this feud, no matter who walks away with the title, I don't think it's going to produce anything that I haven't seen so many times before already that I've gotten bored with it. Long-time knockouts versus other long-time knockouts is no longer interesting to me. I'm not a mark, okay? I won't say something is compelling when it's not, just to show that go team attitude. That's stupid. It's counterproductive, and it's just not me. And don't mistake this for disrespect, okay? That's not what this is. I'm not blaming the women for this. They're still putting in the effort, and most of their matches are still technically good. This has nothing to do necessarily with them, but interest in this division is just at an all-time low, and it's on TNA for allowing this to happen. They could have fixed the problem with the knockout division back when it first became a problem like 2 years ago. But instead, they sat by and let it get worse and worse as the knockouts got more and more stale, and now people just don't give a crap. Now the knockouts are drawing some of the lowest rated quarter-hour segments when once upon a time they were drawing the highest every week. Doesn't that tell you that there's some kind of problem with your women's division that needs to be addressed ASAP? I'm sorry, but until some of those new knockouts that Christy Hemme mentioned in the podcast start showing up, you can't expect me, or anyone else for that matter, to care anymore. Alpha Female alone doesn't mean much. From what I hear, she's only there for the UK tour, and then she's going back to Japan for 6 months, so she's out. You got Santana Garrett waiting in the wings. Shauna had a solid match with Gail and Explosion. I don't know what's stopping you from signing her. So get those two, and then get like 3 more new girls. Start creating some new, fresh feuds and characters and matchups for the women that we haven't seen before, and then maybe you'll have something. Enough is enough, TNA. Your knockout division needs a complete revamp and has needed one for a very long time. No more stalling, no more excuses, just do it.
Oh, my brother, testify!
Knockouts action. Portugal's perfect athlete, Shanna, making her way to the ring. First time get to see this TNA knockout like today, and some high expectations coming in.
This is a joke.
And use this as a joke right here at the end. What's it? Well, that wasn't a joke yet, Kim, huh? First ever knockouts champion. So many people feel that she is the best female competitor active in the sport today, and it's tough really to argue that. But after Gail Kim's offense directed at that leg and knee, well, it's just so tough for her to get much behind the moves that she's thrown at Gail Kim. Look at Gail Kim just sizing her up. Oh, catches with a clothesline. And from a strategy standpoint, caught Gail Kim off guard now. She just needs to capitalize. And just now from the top rope, look at this. All the way from Portugal. Cross the body block. Comes down. Cover. 2 and... Wow.
Okay, I'm watching this explosion match here, Gail Kim versus Shauna, and you know what? This is a good match. A very refreshing match. Shauna's selling is great. She's getting the crowd into the story of the match and into her offense. She totally copped a feel on that first pin attempt, by the way. And I'd like to see more matches from these two. It'd be a hell of a lot more interesting than what Gail did on Impact this week, I'll tell you that. You got a great potential signee right in front of your faces here, TNA. I don't know what you're waiting for. I really don't.
We're getting to see Shanna tonight has really had the focus, the spotlight, and certainly did not get the victory, but impressive nonetheless, still in defeat.
As good as anything else on Impact this week might have been, there were two things that really put this episode over the top. One was the main event segment and everything that built up to it, and the other was Bobby Roode. This angle had to be some of the most compelling stuff they've done with Roode in ages. From that unexpectedly poignant pre-tape he had with James Storm to his awesome semi-babyface in-ring promo where he actually got the live crowd to believe that he was walking away even if you knew he wasn't serious. And then him and Dixie have this great exchange. And I loved this because of how vital it made Roode look. Because Dixie is basically saying here, I got rid of Sting, I got rid of AJ Styles, I got rid of Jeff Hardy because those guys didn't matter. But I need Bobby Roode. I can't beat MVP and get control of my company back without Bobby Roode. So regardless of how Lethal Lockdown turns out, you're telling the fans here that this guy, Bobby Roode, is the difference maker. And that's a hell of an endorsement. And yes, it was a huge facepalm moment when Dixie actually offered him 10% ownership of the company if he wins Lethal Lockdown for her. It makes Dixie look really desperate and weak and not in any kind of control of the situation. But it also made Roode look like an incredibly important figure and tells us that the stakes for Lethal Lockdown are very, very high, which I like. By the way, wouldn't it be awesome if this was all one giant con and Roode had been playing Dixie for a sap the whole time just to get her to make him an offer like this? Anyway, I really like this a lot. It gave Bobby Roode a great rub, and it set the stage for Lethal Lockdown, so big thumbs up here.
And that's the fishing line, 'cause Shark Boy said so.
I'm not exaggerating when I say that the Magnus Gunner World Title match was, in my opinion, the most well-hyped, well-executed TV main event this company has put on in I don't know how long. First, they do these tremendous promo packages on the YouTube page of Magnus making a pretty compelling and valid argument about how Gunner isn't ready to be a world champion. And even though Magnus was in heel mode, it made you think for a minute, you know, he might actually have a point there. And then they do one with Gunner talking about his military background and what the world title would mean to him. And this really put Gunner over as a character who's easy to get behind and who you don't want to fuck with. And even though I was supporting Magnus, I couldn't help but root for Gunner a little bit after seeing this. Really dynamite videos from the production team there. Then Impact opens with a video that's all about hyping up this match. People are talking about it throughout the show. We see more videos, multiple segments devoted to building it up. The one with James Storm was especially well done. That whole conversation was laced with subtext that probably went over a lot of people's heads. You learn where Gunner's head is at, but at the same time, James Storm is explaining what he's about to do, why he's about to screw Gunner over without anyone even realizing it. This was beautiful. Then they get the main event segment. There's nothing after this. They don't play second fiddle to MVP and Dixie. The spotlight is on Gunner and Magnus. And this was built up so well that by the time JB is doing the in-ring intros, they'd really given this a big match feel that typical Impact main events just don't have. You know, sure, the no DQ stipulation came right the hell out of nowhere, and I don't know why on earth you're doing 2 no DQ matches in the same week, but that's not the point. The match got a good amount of time. It was probably better than I thought it would be. I mean, I wasn't expecting a whole lot here, but it was pretty decent. There is an issue, though, of them making Gunner look like a badass, only for him to have a competitive match with the guy they've billed as the paper champion, who is easily beaten unless he has a whole bunch of people helping him, and who ran from the wolves like a giant coward earlier in the night, but I guess that was unavoidable. Then the overbooking started. But this time I was okay with it, because this time the overbooking was well thought out, well booked, and in service of telling a larger story. In this case, the overbooking actually enhanced the match for a change, and I'm as shocked as anyone to be saying that. Magnus uses the belt shot to try to get the pin. He can't do it. The heels try to interfere, but the faces run them off. Gunnar still won't go down. He hulks up, he rallies, he gets the crowd behind him. Magnus goes down, but now Rockstar Spud is trying to stop Gunnar. James Storm takes Spud out, and after everything that Storm and Gunnar just went through over the last few weeks, you could really believe that Storm was out there to help his friend, even if there was a voice in the back of your head saying, heel turn, heel turn. Everything in this segment has led up to this one moment. The tension has been built up perfectly. Gunnar goes for the diving headbutt that'll put Magnus away and win him the World Heavyweight Championship, and then... super kick.
Say what?
Awesome. This was the payoff, not just for Feast or Fired, but for the Storm Gunnar breakup angle that started at Bound for Glory months ago. It was interwoven through a bunch of different storylines, everything was timed perfectly. This was so well executed that I almost didn't mind that once again Tenay and Taz ruined the moment by talking over it when they should have just shut their damn traps.
I got a factoid for both you guys. I got a boil on my ass.
People focusing on the wrestling quality in this match, I think we're missing the bigger picture. There was some really top-notch storytelling playing out here. And couple that with how many hoops TNA jumped through to hype the match, build it up as a really big match, that by the time the bell rang, I said to myself, TNA did everything right here. They covered all the bases. It seems like they did everything they possibly could over the last week to give Gunnar the best chance he could ask for to make himself a star with this match. If this doesn't work, it won't be TNA's fault. I thought Gunnar did an admirable job. And because of how well all these different storytelling elements came together here in just the right way, I think so far, this was one of the best segments of the year for TNA. No joke. And while this didn't change my thoughts about Gunnar not being ready to be a world champion, they raised his profile. He probably earned himself some new fans here. He looks like a bigger star than he was, and you really couldn't have asked for much more out of this. Plus, all eyes were on James Storm as the show went off the air. James Storm is finally back in an important role. Hell fucking yeah!
Yes! 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 Yes!
Aside from the main event, all the matches felt too short this week. Plus, there were some really awkward edits where they would cut to and away from things so quickly that it felt jarring. They obviously had to cut some corners to squeeze everything in this week, and that was unfortunate. Also, at some point in the not-too-distant future, the writers are really going to have to give Magnus his balls back. This paper champion gimmick may get heat in the short term, but that's only going to have so much mileage in it. If Magnus is going to work as a main eventer, he's going to have to shake that before too long. And as much as I'm enjoying the push of Samoa Joe, I think Magnus absolutely needs to go over at Lockdown. Not necessarily clean, but somehow, some way, he needs to beat Joe by himself, without help. That's important. Then he can be like, blow that paper champion shit out your ass. I'm the real deal and this proves it. And fans would not expect him to win the match that way at this point. I'm just saying. Really good impact this week. The Lockdown card is starting to come together. The storylines are interesting. The Anderson-Bully Ray feud being done with is a big plus for me. I like this one a lot. Good job, TNA. Let's try to keep that ball rolling next week, alright? Over. Out.